what up? I'm Steve. This is what I am calling a new segment called Skate Park Tours. I may come up with a different name, but I wanted to go through a more thorough tour of local skate parks in my home city of Indianapolis, starting with the Monon skate park, or Central Park Skatepark in Carmel, Indiana. So I'm going to give a history, go through some of the obstacles, and I hope you enjoy it. The Carmel skate park is pretty symmetrical, and as you can see in this back street section, there are a number of rails, ramps, and Euro gaps to skate, as well as ledges. The skate park was built in 2007, and since that time, it's had a couple additions. While the rails, banks, and Euro gaps are original, some of these other box ledges, as well as flat bar extensions to the rails, were added later. So it's made the skate park a little bit more skater friendly and has a lot more options to skate on. One of the most popular options is what many refer to as the baby rail. It's about 1.5 feet tall square rail down a bank. It's definitely the warm-up rail in the park, and is the easiest one to do a lot of different slides and grind tricks down. Additionally, these step-up ledges are a relatively new feature. They're about, I would say, 10 or 12 feet long and about 1 foot tall. You can wally up into them, you can grind off of them and land into the bank. Some people have even hit them as fast enough to grind them all the way to the end and then completely clear the bank. The skate park also has a 3-stair set of ledges into the banks, which can be skated frontside or backside. Doesn't matter what your stance is. These ones are good for manuals as well as drop downs into the banks. One drawback on these ledges is that it does require quite a bit of speed to get up to them, and if you want to transition back down into one of the banks, they can be a little tight in terms of spacing. These banks are only about 3 feet wide. The park also has twin circle handrails. These ones are much taller. The end of them is definitely sackable. They're about a little bit more than 2 feet tall, especially at the flat bar part. But these used to be more popular than they are today. Skateboarding has changed a little bit, and you don't see people skating these nearly as much as you used to when the park first opened. The park also has these banked ledges. These were modeled after the MLK ledges in Miami, Florida. There's a pair of these, one on each side of the park, so they can be skated frontside or backside. Again, not as popular as they used to be, but still one of the more challenging obstacles in the park. The park also has these twin hubbas and pyramids, both for frontside and backside skating. The pyramids themselves are about 4.5 feet tall, and the hubbas at their lowest point are about 1.5 feet tall, but gap out. So you definitely have to ollie off the bank if you're not going to ride over the kink. As you can see, the banks are pretty wide and long, and they do end with bank to ledges that are sometimes skated. These are good for wallies into different grind and slide tricks, but they're definitely a hard one to skate. At the top of the skate park, you do have these twin boxes. They vary in height. One is about a 13 or 14 inches tall, and the other is about 16 inches tall. These are definitely fun to skate. The taller one also ends in a bank that goes straight into the ground, so you can grind that one entirely all the way out if you choose to. The back of the skate park does have about a 3 foot tall quarter pipe. The quarter pipe is much steeper than most quarter pipes that you'll find. Still relatively easy to do different kinds of grinds, stalls, and slides on, but it does have a quick transition that makes it a little bit more challenging to skate than a quarter pipe that you would see possibly at another skate park. The biggest rail in the park is this square rail, and it's about 2.5 feet tall. Definitely the steepest rail in the park, and is difficult to skate regardless of how good you are. but it definitely is one that is not for the faint of heart. There have been a number of demos over the years here. One trick that stands out to me personally is Jamie Thomas doing a frontside 180 nose grind on the rail. There is also a small curb that's been added, or parking block that's been added to the park recently. Although they didn't build the Carmel skate park, Hunger Skate Parks, based in Bloomington, Indiana, came through and did a little bit of remodel work a few years ago, and one of the features they added was this concrete parking block. I believe it was just added because they had extra concrete left over, but it is a nice feature. Gives you something to skate that isn't that doesn't have metal coping on it, and definitely allows for just a more simple item to skate if you don't feel like jumping down stuff. One of the more bizarre features in the park is this round rail that goes down a bank that has no run up. We're not, I personally am not sure why this rail was put where it was. I believe that it was ordered when the park was created, but there was not really a good plan for where to put it. It may have also been that the rail was supposed to go side by side with the square baby rail, but nevertheless it was not used for anything, and thus it is here today in a bank, and is very, very difficult to skate. I have seen a few people ollie off the bank and basically stall into the rail and grind it down, but as you can see, as we get up here to the top, there is no run up to the rail unless you go at a 90-degree angle, and that severely limits your options to skate. Here's the top view of the park. As you can see, again, it's very symmetrical. It allows for good back and forth flow. Some people try to skate it left to right, which definitely disrupts the flow of others when they're skating, but if you skate from like a north to south pattern, you'll have a lot of fun and you'll find a lot of lines at this park. Finally, the Carmel Skate Park has a rectangular sized bowl. The bowl was actually built improperly. Rather than sloping completely straight down into the flat bottom, it was actually supposed to have two levels, one that was about 3.5 feet tall and the other that was about 5.5 feet tall on the deep end. But the construction company that built this was not a certified skate park builder, and they didn't really understand the importance of having a well-designed transition in the flat bottom of a bowl. Thus, this bowl is somewhat difficult to skate, and it's extremely difficult to maintain speed in. You will also find with this bowl that the coping is incredibly small and doesn't stick out as much as it could or should in comparison to bowls that have been built by more experienced skate park builders such as Dreamland or Grindline or Hunger. The skate park does have some bench areas to sit down on, and a water fountain that is working when there isn't a pandemic going on. The landscaping of this park is nice, but one challenge that this skate park has is there just is not a lot of shade. So if you do plan on visiting this skate park, you'll definitely want to make sure that you visit on a cooler day, one that's not too hot, and you'll definitely want to make sure that you bring sunscreen if you're the type who can easily get a sunburn. All right, so that's the Carmel Skate Park, my home park. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm gonna try to do more skate park tours and give a little bit more history as to where the skate parks came from, when they were built. Because this skate park, for instance, the main users of this park were in diapers when it was first built. So kind of fun to talk about where these skate parks originated. And I hope that this can be used more as like a sort of a historical record, so to speak, of the park as it stands today, about 13 years after it was first opened.